So former MSNBC host and my friend Joy Reid went off on the Vice President on Don Lemon's show this week, saying in no uncertain terms that for all the administration's bluster against DEI and affirmative action, Vance is among those who have benefited from it. Take a listen.
Maybe that's the affirmative action we've been getting. White people who are essentially mediocre in scale compared to a black person getting the spot because they wanted a conservative. Maybe the way that J.D. Vance got into Yale is because they were tired of just letting in white men from New York, from Choate, from all the elite schools, and they wanted an Appalachian white. That's how that man got into Yale, I promise you.
But she didn't stop the list of conservatives who benefited from DEI at Vance. She went on.
Same thing with Ron DeSantis from a small town in Florida. They wanted to just get out of the New York, D.C. matrix, Massachusetts matrix, and let somebody into Harvard and Yale who came from a different place. He came from Florida. Baby, that's also affirmative action and DEI. So before y'all start going crazy about DEI just meaning they let black people in just on the basis of being black, think a little more critically. And think about the fact that it's also disabled people, military veterans, people who come from Appalachia, white folks who come from Alaska and different places that they don't normally come from, indigenous people, Latinos, Asians.
Vance's response to Reid was brief but memorable. He took to his personal X account, posting only this photo, a meme open to interpretation, I suppose, but it seemed to go over well with his audience on the platform, garnering 300,000 likes. I gotta admit, that was funny. One of those likes.
Yeah, I didn't like it, but I thought it was pretty funny.
Joy, oh Joy, you said she's your friend, so
she is. I used to produce for her at MSNBC.
I could not possibly have a lower opinion of her, but in her remarks there, she said a number of things that were incorrect, but she did have a kernel of a correct point that we're going to discuss and debate here. She is right that part of the DEI affirmative action programs of elite universities did benefit whites from what is called, we learned this from the lawsuit against Harvard, sparse country. They sought lower academically performing white people from rural parts of the country. Yes, Harvard loves to find what they consider a diamond in the rough, a worthy person from Appalachia or from rural Idaho or something who lives in some town where almost nobody's ever gone to college. And yes, admit them, and that is affirmative action, to do basically a geographic form of affirmative action. That is part of the affirmative action program. Let me finish.
Okay.
I oppose it utterly and entirely and wholly. So does, I would presume, J.D. Vance and every Republican official. There should be no affirmative action. There should be no geographic consideration, no racial consideration, no veteran status consideration. There should be no legacy consideration. All of those things she mentioned that she's right are parts of DEI, so it's not just black people or Hispanic people, Native Americans getting preferential treatment. It is also a white person should not get more consideration because they're from rural Ohio than because they're from New York. It should just go to the most qualified people. I don't care if 100% of them are white people. I don't care if 100% of them are black people. I don't care if it's all Asian people and we never admit a non-Asian person to an elite school again under this policy. So be it. It should just be merit and test scores, and most people agree with me.
Most people. You say that so generally. Though this one doesn't.
Well, they voted in California, they voted down racial preferences.
Well, she wasn't just talking about race, like you said. She's talking about geographic location.
So you want race preferences, but not
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say. Let me talk now.
Okay.
So the whole point of affirmative action and DEI was to level the playing field because there are historical disadvantages that people from certain communities face, whether it's just simply access. So let's say some people had SAT prep that lived in wealthy families in New York, but you didn't have access or the finances to get that prep in the middle of Milwaukee, but you still were brilliant in getting all A's and deserved to be reviewed to at least submit an application to Harvard. Well, now they're going to Milwaukee to see who's over there and also reviewing your application, even though your SAT score was not a 1300 because you didn't have a prep for a year or 2 years before it with your rich family. You still are being looked at and you go to the school and excel. So that's all it's saying is leveling the playing field based on historical and factual disadvantages.
So you think J.D. Vance should get an advantage when he applies to?
No, I think that if they're looking at people,
the criteria you're describing, he can't afford, or his family.
I know he was poor. I read his book.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
So you think he should get extra
yes, I think poor
consideration.
people should be reviewed, not extra consideration. I think
they're going to be reviewed.
It's not extra.
They're all being reviewed.
Right. So if you need to submit your essay, it needs to be fantastic to get into Harvard. If you need to submit all of your grades, they need to be fantastic to get into Harvard. What is the extra consideration? Ketanji Brown graduated summa cum laude. That's somebody who Charlie Kirk said was only for affirmative action. That is untrue.
I believe
she said she said she was reviewed because of affirmative action, and that's just bringing somebody to the table.
What you're
to
saying
be
is
reviewed.
not true.
Yes, it is.
Everyone who applies gets reviewed.
No, that's not true.
They're not reviewing.
That's not true.
It
That's
would
like,
be
okay,
illegal for them
if
to
you
not
and I
review.
go to a job interview, right, and you already work here and I know you, and I'm like, Robbie, my daughter wants a job, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get her in the building, but 1,000 people are applying. You're telling me you think that they're reviewing all 1,000 of those applications? No, some people don't even have a chance.
Elite
some people,
schools?
I'm talking about jobs, elite schools.
No,
I'm
talking about one thing very specific.
Yes, I don't think elite schools look at every
review,
application.
Well,
no.
right. If you submit and you
that.
have a 22 on your ACT, they're not going to look at the rest of your application.
Okay, and I think that why it matters is because having a culturally diverse and experience diverse hub creates the best world leaders. You don't want
now you're going to a different argument.
No, you don't want
an argument for. I'm
making an argument for a wide range of people. That's what I'm saying, from different backgrounds. Everybody can't be rich legacy students from. And you said something that I actually agree with, that you want to cancel legacy admissions. Okay, but until they do that, then let's not cancel DEI, because in the whole country, in the whole
Your terms are acceptable. We should cancel them both immediately.
Fine, but every single institution would be only legacy students. If that's the case, who can afford it and whose parents can pay for a building and get them in there?
Well, obviously,
that's what we don't want to do.
Who can afford it or can get assistance can go.
Right, but we saw that people were buying their kids
afford
into
it.
college that were rich people and actors just a couple years ago, right? They're buying their kids way onto sports teams. Like, this actually happens. We know
If
that
you get
capitalistic
these, if you're
society,
an elite-
people cheat when they have money. And so if you don't have money, does that mean you shouldn't have access? No. And that's what these programs are doing, providing access to just apply and be reviewed fairly, because you are worthy of being there and you can excel easily, like Joy Reid has done, like Ketanji Brown did once she was in the building. You understand? And that's the thing. If you're a mediocre person that just dad has money, you also can get into Harvard. We should stop that, because mediocre people get in all the time because they're rich.
If you're a mediocre person, we should stop that.
That's what happens, though.
You can't be a mediocre person. If
you're a mediocre person whose dad owns the building at Harvard, I almost can guarantee you that you're getting. You paid $1 million for that building, or $10 million, you're getting in Harvard.
Well, and
so
that should
cut
be,
the crap.
And again, I'm agreeing that should be stopped. But these universities were also awarding massive advantages toward admission to lower performing people on the basis of race, and that is wrong. And not only is it wrong, it violates the law. It violates the law
What's
that
the
says
advantage
we
that
may
they're
not
offering?
discriminate on the basis.
What's the advantage that they're offering?
So under the system that was in place until the Supreme Court dismantled it, you got a certain amount of points toward admission. So it took. You had to get a certain amount of points and then you would be admitted. So a perfect score on your ACT, SAT was worth a certain amount of points. Being a racial minority was worth more points than a perfect score on your SAT or ACT. I'm saying that is A, wrong, B, illegal, and C, the Supreme Court agreed with me because they.
And having a well-connected,
that was insane.
A well-connected rich family is worth the top amount of points, because your daddy can just call up the head of the school and come in. And that's happening. I know, but it's not being dismantled. So don't start with excluding people who have historically been excluded.
There's no law saying we can't discriminate in favor of people who have legacy. There is a law saying we can't discriminate in favor of race.
But history shows us that that's why there's HBCUs. History shows us that race has been an exclusionary practice in universities. That's why historically black colleges and universities
It was an exclusionary practice up until the Supreme Court just ruled against it.
No, they were discluded. People of color were othered and not allowed into universities, and so that's why HBCUs
so were Jews
came
and
about.
So were Asian
exactly.
people
So then,
until now.
Okay, but there's still people in place, no matter
I'm trying to dismantle that system.
I know,
You're
but
defending it.
No, I'm saying that there's people in position that still have these tendencies and are approving candidates. We have to make sure that everyone is the most perfect version of this union, to make sure that they're applying and reviewing applications fairly, or to make sure there's checks and balances in place to make sure we're looking at the whole country and not just your friends who you might know because they're wealthy. Like, who's checking and making sure that there is an equal opportunity?
Is only mad that J.D. Vance got admitted under this system.
She also got admitted. I don't think she's mad. And racist is like, come on, Robbie. She is talking about? No,
she defends.
Untrue.
She wants
that's
advantages
untrue.
for everyone, every other category except for
no, she doesn't.
poor white person.
She just told J.D. Vance, you benefited from DEI, so why are you removing it? That was her point. Not that he shouldn't have gotten it. She said you benefited from it. So what are we talking about?
Well, he would say he probably shouldn't have gotten it.
Okay, well then
that is why he got
wouldn't be our vice president.
I would certainly say that. No one should get an advantage. It should just be whoever scores the best and has the best grades and whatever other academically relevant criteria
So basically, whoever has the most money to get the most tutoring.
No, not the most.
Yeah, because you do better when you get tutored. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
It doesn't.
Yes, it does. Are you nuts? What are you saying? Tutoring doesn't help you? Tutoring does not help students learn better and dissect
test is the
information?
fairest metric, because when they consider other things, when they consider like how much volunteering you did and whether you're on the water polo team, that hurts economically disadvantaged kids more, because they don't have the money and the time it takes to do all those extracurricular things. Is
Right.
they have less access.
But that doesn't mean they're less brilliant.
The testing prep, it helps certainly, but it's not as much of it doesn't add as much value as those other things do for already
That's why you're
wealthy
proving
kids.
my point. So already wealthy kids have this whole resume of, I was in this
of course,
sport,
Lindsay,
I played
wealthy people
piano,
always have
I
an advantage.
All
We
right,
got
so
a
then
totally equal
we should
society.
review poor people as well, like J.D. Vance, who was poor, who got
No
reviewed.
one is saying not
yes, you should come to the
review them.
table.
Oh my God.
You
They're
should come
all
to the
going to get
table.
reviewed. It is illegal not to review
No,
them
you just
because
said if you have a
they're poor. That
22 on the
violates
ACT,
law.
you're not getting reviewed. Why? Everyone should get reviewed then. How do we make sure that people are doing
can
that?
filter
By putting
out.
these practices in place to make sure they're reviewing the kids from poorer
You
communities.
think Harvard should have
and
a
also
bunch of
coming,
people who had 22, scored 22 on the ACT?
I think that Harvard should have the best and the brightest, whatever that looks like. And
I
if
think
you're
whoever gets
disadvantaged
the
by not
highest
having a
score
tutor on the
and-
ACT, and if you're disadvantaged by not being able to be part of a polo club, you should not be sent off because you might still be brilliant. That's what I'm saying. We're going to go in circles about this all day.
Tell us what you think. Let us know, and we'll have a lot more to say on some other subjects on Rising. Stay with us.